It. I am live. Here we go. Oh, all right. It looks super grainy. Let me go turn on the light. Turn on the light. So weird. All right. Hello, 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 hello. Let's get into the conversation about hustle culture and confusing it with work. I wrote a Substack article today where we were talking about the the difference between the hustle culture aspect as well as working. So I'm live here on Substack. I am also live here on YouTube. Thank y'all for joining me. And yeah, we're just gonna get right into it. Just start flowing. Yep, it's just a little bit early tonight. Usually I start a few minutes late. People know always try to give myself a couple of minutes of grace and get people ready. But we are here. We are here. So one of the biggest things about content today is the fact of the matter is that we have to stay focused on what we are here to do. Okay, I see a lot of us that are pivoting, a lot of us are trying to think things through as far as our content is concerned, trying to see what our aim is going to be. And some of us have got our aim, which is great. And a lot of us are just leaning into what is now here. So we have a lot of people, right, that are, kind of set on the social scene. And some of us, which I really love, are really staying focused because that's what you have to do in these online streets. I mean, I think that we have seen so much happen in the last 5 to 6 years, going from everybody doing all the things to now everybody trying to get their footing firmed. Seeing a lot of things on the threads and Instagram, and the landscape is changing and shifting. And people they're bitter now. They're getting online and they're spewing all kinds of things. They're mad at the government. They're mad at themselves. They're mad at each other. They're mad at companies. I mean, there was a big long thread on what is it called? Threads where they were talking about ConvertKit raising up their rates, and it happens every single year when a company, like last year it was Canva, now it's Kit, and that people are just raising hell about the change of pricing, and people are like, do you have to do that? I just don't understand. Okay, so people don't realize it's the cost to do business. And gone are the days where people just silently made decisions, right? You have to broadcast why you're mad that a company is raising rates when you don't realize that they're a company too. Okay, so let's just let's just talk about it. If you're watching live, comment live. If you're watching the replay, comment replay. I would love for y'all to do that for me as a favor. Hello, Kyla. Hey, T Marie, who is watching on Substack. Hey, what is it? UT Fur. Who else is watching? Let me see here. So we're just gonna hop right into it because the difference between the great difference between hustling and working, right? Um, and this is to go with the series that I've been kind of harking on. It's content that attracts toxic minds. So what does that mean? That means kind of indulging with the content that is really focused on emotional imbalances, emotional like turbulence, people having just a hard time with meeting challenges with some level of maturity, as opposed to um what they're doing online, which is pretty much spewing and vomiting online as usual, right? And I have a hard criticism. And this is the thing about what I've grown to appreciate when I look at social media now, and I've been really taking in and digesting a lot of long form content, which, and not a lot. So I have to make sure I, you know, choose my words very wisely. I've been embracing other people's perception and perspective of AI, people's perspective of content, people's perspective of governments and businesses and how they see societies across the waters. I have taken a great interest in Africa, and just listening to content creators, and not just people that are like creating courses and stuff like that. No, have real philosophy, right? Real philosophical ideologies. And there's several that I have actually subscribed to, and I think that that is a part of this new beginning in content creation and and building relationships is across the waters. And I've been really appreciating their perspective and how they actually voice their perspective, and even their disagreements with how things are happening in AI. There are several that I have been able to appreciate, and I'm tying this all into the conversation today, which is delving into the whole like hustle culture versus work, because we also have to remember where all of these things came from, the hustle piece versus work, like sacred work, right? And one of the things that I have found to be of great benefit of listening to these individuals, these creators or influencers, or I often call them like content educators, because people are like creating content to educate people. And one of the things that I found one of them to say is that a lot of people don't realize, like Kenya, let's say for Kenya, for example, this person said that Kenya has a very infantilized mindset. Like anybody can come in from the West, which is exactly how they see it. They call us the West, and they come in and they say what they're going to do, right? They come into natural habitats. They come into the natural habitats to take animals and to say that they're going to conserve them. And then they'll take them away for 20, 30 years and then try to bring them back and say, well, we're going to release them. They be like, and he was, the content creator was like, no, you just keep them because they're in their natural habitat. And he said, but we just allow people just to come in and do anything and not question them. Like they're in their natural habitat. We are surrounded by wildlife our entire lives. So why do you feel the need to come in and to conserve what is already natural for us? Right? So why do we always have to say yes? Why can't we say no? Because we don't have an identity. We don't own who we are, and we don't know how to control that. Control what is natural for us. And we allow people to come in and disturb. You see where I'm going with this, right? We allow people to come in and disturb what is natural for us because we don't have an identity. We don't know when to say no, and we don't know when to say yes. Anybody that comes in does not have to disturb what is natural. So I just thought that though I appreciated that type of content, and people in the comment section, in the chat section, really had some great dialogue. And I thought, like, there's an unhealthy way to disagree with things, and then there's also, I feel like, an unhealthy way of disagreeing with things, because I can appreciate when content creators can come not only with a problem that is going on the World Wide Web, if you will, but then also bring some type of solution, right? And you can vocalize what you don't like about something, and be able to bring some level of this is what I feel like we should allow, give some type of framework to it, or challenge the framework, and then offer some sort of solution, right? So now let's go into the hustling piece, because we also have to start thinking about hustling as it pertains to sacred work. And y'all, feel free to chime in anytime, because this is a conversation, obviously. So when it comes down to hustle, right? Now, we already know, like I told y'all a long time ago, and please just ride with me on this, is the fact of the matter is that we know, okay, we know that this is a system. We know that this is a system that thrives on labor, right? And this is across all societies, East and West, right? People are born to work. Okay, that's the whole point of why you're here. Now, you get here, and then we have technology that gives us access to information that allows us to see the world for what it is, right? And the labor is for what? To operate the world or operate the to for it to benefit whoever is benefiting, right? And so the whole point is, however, is there is a reciprocation or reward for your labor. So the word work is all about, like, I give you skills, I give you something that I can do for you in exchange for what? Compensation. Okay. And then if you get into, depending on what society you're in, and you get into more privatized corporations or different organizations, then you're able to get what? Benefits. Then they tack on retirement, then they tack on pet insurance and life insurance and all this other insurance. I worked in HR for 10 years. And so each company had their own benefits package, right? And it can range from, but not limited to, working from home a couple of days a week, or you get a corporate credit card, or you get a corporate car, or all these other things, these other benefits that allows you to stay in that company longer, right? And many times people would think that the higher you get paid, the more responsibility you get, right? The more responsibility you have, which means what? You become salaried. So you go from hourly pay to salary pay. So no matter what hours you work, you're getting the same pay. And think that's when they get you, right? So they give you a fixed income where you're given either bonuses or commission. Sometimes you don't get either, but depending on what type of role you got, that's what you got. But then also, in order to keep this job, sometimes you got a cell phone, right? Depending on the nature of your job. So they can feel like they can call you 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, sometimes on the weekends. And depending on if you got boundaries or not, right? Depending if you got boundaries, they, will call you and expect you to answer, right? And so if you don't put those boundaries in place and say, well, I'm not going to pick up the phone, then they're going to have a question about it because we gave you a cell phone for a reason. So they would make you believe that having a cell phone, a corporate cell phone, when you leave work still goes, right? So 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, there's something going on in the warehouse, or there's something going on in a system, or we got to get some people in, and we got three people walked off the job. Now, this is coming from somebody who used to work in staffing, right? And so you will wake up and disgruntled. You'll be waking up in a panic because you got to hurry up and get to work, or you got to hurry up and get online. So what happens, right? You start to work more than the hours that you agree to, but because of the salary, right? You're getting to this thing where you want to keep your coins, okay? You want to keep your salary. Now, let's get into entrepreneurship, okay? So entrepreneurship, you're in charge of everything, right? You're in charge of the marketing, you're in charge of all of these things. Whereas in corporate, in so many ways, you were given duties, but you already are in a system that has already been set up properly. The automations, the processes, the employee handbook, everything is set. Website, all of these things. When you step out into entrepreneurship, there's just a different level of what is it called? Operation that you don't have when you are in corporate. See, in corporate, there's a mind trickery that happens, right? So mind trickery is that you want to keep your job, right? So you stay on everybody's good side by working a little bit more hours than you're supposed to. But then also too, you're scared about this job security thing that keeps looming over your head, because what you don't want to do is slip through the cracks, and then you get that HR meeting on your calendar out of nowhere with your director and the HR manager and your immediate supervisor. You already know what that's about, right? Because that's layoff alarm 100%. So when you get into entrepreneurship, it is your responsibility, right, to establish the business, to start up the business, and then also grow the business so you can eventually what? Scale the business. Most entrepreneurs don't ever get to scale. They stop at growth because scaling requires you to put some things on autopilot like payments and invoices and things like that. And a lot of us don't get there because that requires a different level of trust. And that's when you're actually in the realm of rest and receive in a company. When you're in growth mode, you're in the hustle game too long. Everybody with me? Most people don't get to scale. When you are an employee of a company, don't you know that that company is in scale mode? It's in scale mode. Scale mode is basically hiring people, or you are the only one in the company, but you have your systems in place where you have people on payments or payments, ongoing payments. It could be through usually installment plans, it could be paying fools, but then also, like I said, payment plans or some type of collections or whatever. But most people don't get there, right? Because some people are used to payments right then and there. And this is what can bring on the hustle. So let's just kind of like maybe break it down for you. So hustle culture paints constant busyness, right? So your late nights, endless to-dos, there's no rest. You're literally always looking for the next sale. You're always looking for the next sale. You need like money, right? I always have to launch or I always have to do this because I need cash flow. That's the number one job of a business owner is to always bring in some sort of cash flow. Okay. That's your job. That you got to, what they used to say, find the money. You have to find the money, period. Okay. Now, the hustle is stress driven, which is also why you see a lot of entrepreneurs burnt out. A lot of them that are shaming other business owners for saying, like, oh, this person is making $30,000 a month. How is that possible when people don't have any money? And it's like, wait a minute, do you not know what scaling a business is? Of course, they're making 30, 50, $60,000. That's not like rocket science when you have a company. I mean, you're supposed to get to that point. But a lot of people do not. And so the long-term authority that comes along with that is developing leadership capabilities. Now, this is another thing that a lot of people don't understand about the hustle versus the working or the sacred work that comes along with it. Because with hustle culture, you are always looking for the sale. You're always looking for the cash. You're always looking for a client. You're always looking for a customer. And you're never ever developing as a leader. You're never ever developing as a leader, right? So because you can't invest in yourself. People think that I'm just going to make money, but I'm never developing my emotional intelligence. I'm never developing my emotional resilience. I'm never ever developing myself to manage my client load, right? I'm never ever creating space really to learn how to develop character to manage my clientele, or even having a curriculum and guiding people through a framework and a process so they can ultimately get results. So we're back to square one. So I think a lot of the people that are online that are like regurgitating and and dare I say gargling on lava are the people that never develop character. They're mad about something. They get up upset because they never got a chance to develop what it looks like to be a true leader in their own company. Because you do have to develop that emotional resilience You do have to develop emotional management skills. So this is why a lot of times our containers don't grow like they're supposed to. Our level of client load never gets up to a certain point because we don't have the capacity, right? We can only handle, quote unquote, we can only handle so many clients before we start breaking down, because why? We haven't went through the upper limit. We haven't yet charged ourselves to come up higher because we're afraid of what people are going to think, what people are going to say, because it opens us up to more people and it opens us up to more opinion, negative or positive. Because the more and more people that you serve, the more people that you're going to come into negative experiences with. And you're going to have to be ready for that client that don't like you. You're going to have to be ready for that client that's going to try to blast you on social media. You got to be ready for that client who has a bad experience, or that you need to fire, or that wants a refund. And a lot of people don't want that feeling because they want a business that only makes them feel good. And so it goes back to the original point of how hustle culture has it has been confused with working. So now we have people, I don't want to hustle, I don't want to burn out. No, what you don't want to do is come across clients that don't like you. What you don't want is clients that have a possible negative feedback for you. What you're scared of is your business breaking when you haven't done the work to make sure that the business stays put and that the automations are working and that you're investing in the right things and tools into your business. And that can happen as you grow. And then also as you contract. Absolutely. Carla said burnout is not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Burnout, I think it's tapped and tuned into staying in a growth phase too long. Goes back to what I said. When you're still stuck in growth phase all the time, you're never ever sustaining. There's no sustainability, there's no support. When my group programs, I've had the matriarch for 2.5 years. Before that, I had this signature program called the Skyrocket Growth Accelerator, which lasts about almost 2 years too. It's like a year, about a year that I've had that program. But I know for Skyrocket Growth, for sure, I think I had up to 31 clients at one time in that particular program, right? And that program was $12,000. So that particular program really taught me that, yes, the money is great, but I had to consistently invest in my leadership development skills. I had to consistently invest in operations. So this is why I know that these times are very interesting, because a lot of people did not give themselves the opportunity to invest in that particular skill set. And that's one thing that nobody can take from me, is the ability to develop leaders, because I've been able to be developed myself. So I invested in character development. That is something that I think is very much so missing in the online business realm. But nobody thinks to invest in it because they only are focused on what? The hustle. So even in that, people are hustling and they don't even know that they're hustling. I don't want to, they're so afraid of slipping into something instead of developing into it. You're developing into the leadership. I know that y'all probably have seen, what's her name? Amy Porterfield, and I believe Jenna Kutcher, I believe it's her name. They're advertising, and you can see the comments up under there like, oh, I just can't believe Amy is doing this. And Amy, I used to respect her so much. The woman is just advertising a course. And people are literally having a baby in the comment section. So this is kind of what I'm talking about with content attracting toxic minds, where people cannot take that someone else has developed their character in their business. And I'm so like I kind of laughing. And it's really bothersome. And it doesn't bother me to the point I'm like, oh my God. But it's really interesting because I'm an observer of nature, right? And so I'm looking at it from a philosophical standpoint, is that we have people in the comments that are really, really having a hard time trying to understand why somebody like Amy Porterfield is still advertising and still when they should be doing the same thing. That's why I tell people like you should literally be doing the same thing. Like you should be marketing. You should be advertising. If you don't have the advertising and marketing dollars to run ads, guess what you need to do? You need to put in the sweat equity. You need to market the organic way, making sure that you're commenting on other people's things that have large audiences and making sure that your comments are actually meaningful so that people can be redirected back to your profile. That is how you grow organically. You also do lives. You also indulge in content features where you're able to utilize those features so that you can get the reach. But if you are not tapped in and tuned in, you're going to think that everybody is, oh my gosh, who's scamming these days? No, no one is scamming. People are advertising, people are marketing. But we don't do that to the powers that be. We're only looking at people that we feel like we have access to, that we can beat up on, that we feel close to, and we have had in the past a parasocial relationship with. And so we're mad that they're still going and we're still quitting. Amen, somebody. Hustle culture is loud and it's celebrated among the patriarchy, right? So men, we see men talk about hustle a lot. Like you got to hustle, which is why a lot of these men are gunning it on social media. Obviously, like somebody would say, well, they don't have kids and they don't have this. It doesn't matter. Like I tell people, like I don't care. Like yeah, they don't have any kids. Yeah, a lot of them have girlfriends or whatever. But the reason why a lot of them make money is to have women. Like we already know that. Like a lot of them, do what they do because they, and this, I forgot who said this. Gosh, I just saw him the other day. I forget his name. Anyway, he said that a lot of the men, they make all this money just so they can get laid. That's what they want. Oh, his name Tom Bill you from Impact Theory. I hope I'm not saying his name right, but he said that they do that in order to get laid. That's what they want. They want to make a lot of money because they know women are going to come to them. They're going to get the best choices, like the best of the best. Because you already know, highly feminine, performative women love a man with some money, baby, including myself. Okay, so bars. Women love it. Okay, women love money. Now, we know this to be true, which is why you see a lot of men that are very self-actualized, very, I know myself, very self-aware. They're very into getting all the coins. However, when women do it, right, we're going massive. We're producing content. We're producing content in volume. We're reposting content. We're doing all the things. Those kind of women are considered ambitious. They're considered doing too much. And then don't start talking about how much money you're making online. You really gonna mess the girls up then. Because then you're going to be seen as, you're taking advantage of people. Why are you doing this and this and the third? Whereas people like me, because I grew up in the era in business where it was inspiring to me to know how much money people were making. And then even now, like I think it's amazing. I still think it's cool. I don't do it, but I do recognize that people do it. And I think that that's amazing because it keeps you knowing, or it keeps you in the space of, oh my gosh, like there's still money to be made out here. Now, while we can go back and forth and say, okay, well, these people are lying though. How do you know they're scamming? I don't know. And I really don't care. And what's it to you? Even the question when people would talk about the cost of, or their launches, and people would talk about how much they made on a launch, and people would say, well, is that sales or is that yeah, and I'm like, why do you need to know that? Like, I think I've never understood that question because it doesn't matter. And people need to find something to discredit you because they just cannot, in their mind, see how in the world were you able to make that kind of money. But of course, the online industry does that. The only people that do that is the online industry, because much of our work is done online. And quite frankly, I really don't care how much money you made on your launch. If you did 100K launch, girl, tell me how you did it. What was the blueprint? These are some of the questions that people need to be asking. I'm interested in knowing how you did it, not if it's revenue versus, like, really, or what's, after all of that, what did you take home? Really? Like, is that really what's keeping you up at night? Like, that's insane to me. But again, we have to find, because we can't fathom having people around us online that put in the blood, sweat, and tears in order to get this work. Amy Porterfield is no different. Amy Porterfield is rich. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not here counting her coins. I don't know her books, but she seems like she's doing pretty well to me. But of course, when content like that gets into people's brains and it messes with them, they cannot see over that, and how they, instead of seeing the limitations and seeing how can she do it and why would she do that, they are not seeing that the opportunity is also theirs as well. You just got to put in the work. You got to focus in. You got to zone in. You got to get strategy behind your belt. And a lot of people don't do that because we're looking for someone to save us. We're looking for someone to feel sorry for us. We're looking for someone to please tell me what to do. And then when we tell you what to do, you don't do it. Because why? Work ethic is trash. And that's what a lot of people really should be working on right now, is your work ethic. What you should be working on right now is your process level thinking. What you should be working on is strategy. What you should be working on is how to develop your character and how to look at and analyze your market, understand competitive intelligence. These are some of the things you need to be working on. Because a lot of times we get this content, and see, this is kind of where thought leadership comes in, right? Taking some of these pieces, taking some of the work that we're doing, and how can we lead upwards, taking another layer up, and how we are portraying ourselves online, right? So it's not just about like the quality of the video camera, even though yes, that's important. I mean, that can be, if depending on what type of content you let out. But if you're someone who is really fixated on thought leadership, right? So, what do you want to do more of? What you want to do is put out more content that is going to get and provoke people to think. You want to provoke people to think. You want to provoke people to be self aware about what they're doing. And that comes along with having some sort of sensibility in terms of bullet points, definitions of things, statistics, science. What is backing up? People love data. We're in a trust economy right now. Even though we can't really trust a whole lot of resources out there, we really do need to like ingrain some of these pieces into our work. Like, where are we getting some of our substance from, right? Yes, our substance, intuition, all of that makes sense, but we also are dealing with people that don't live out their intuition. So we got to get people to trust themselves, trust their intuition, which is why I was telling a client yesterday, is that because you trust yourself, there's a lot of your people that do not trust themselves. So what are you doing to put out content that is going to allow them to trust themselves and trust you with their vision? Because you cannot help people that don't have a vision. I mean, that's in coaching, consulting, any of that. So even in coaching, like, or in consulting spaces, you cannot really get people to do anything if they don't know where they really want to go. Your job is to strategically put them in a space where they're following a path, because the path is what you specialize in. The vision is where they want to be. The vision is the result. The outcome is the feedback. So if they don't know where they're going, they won't follow the formula. That's a word right there. That's a bar. So if people don't know where they want to go, they're not going to follow your process. You specialize in helping people get to it, to the outcome through your own signature process. So if they don't even trust themselves or see themselves at the end, they're not going to go because they haven't rehearsed that outcome in their mind. And even in business coaching, when I used to do business coaching, right? Business coaching was always centered upon, of course, making more money. Women tend to do all the things before they solve the money problem. And then they would do it backwards. So it's like solve the money problem so that you can dump your money. So when you make all this money, you can dump all this money into other things that's going to keep you going. And you can get the optimum health, because no person is feeling safe and sound and secure until they solve the money problem. A lot of women didn't do that. They solved other things first. Now, while I do agree that, for me, before I did any type of coaching, I went and got therapy first. This was back in 2019. I went back and I got therapy. I hired a therapist, did therapy for 6 months, and had all this junk from my old business that I need to get rid of from my old marriage. And then I had to release all that, which I did, thank goodness. And then I hired a life coach, because I needed somebody to help me with my life at that point, because I needed to secure a vision. So now that I had dumped everything out and talked it out, I was fine. So now I needed a new vision, because that old vision I had to divorce from. So I hired a life coach to help me with going forward. And that's exactly what happened. So I was confident in hiring a business coach because I had a vision for my life. That was not tied to the past. It was tied to me, which allowed me to free up the space and the energy to do a new thing. That's a word right there. So I was able to go into the next realm of success scot-free, which is also why I was able to do great exploits and invest in myself freely, because I had let go a lot of the limitations, the mental limitations that came with that. So these are all the things that come up, and these are different realms that come up when we are hitting different milestones. And so now we're in a new era. And a lot of people are not getting the help that they want because they're too focused on the hurt and the pain that the higher the powers that be have they felt done to them personally, when this is just a system upgrade. I mean, a system collapse. That's all it is. But even during the system collapse, do you not understand that there's still strategy in the system collapse? There are still people making things happen even in the system collapse. There is still people making moves even in a system collapse. So the work that you have to put in is going to have to be above the noise. So while people are questioning, you need to be creating, and you need to be leveling up the types of conversations that you're having, because this is not normal types of occurrences. Like we're above like just create a course. We're above just, I want to, I just want you to, create this and here's a worksheet. No, it's really about methodical. It's really about methodology and having some sort of process and being able to take the time out to put those things uh, in an organized way, and being able to create content based around that leadership capability. You got to be ready to understand capacity. This is about expansion of your capacity. And we're doing a lot of people are doing hard pivots right now. That means you're going to have to start having conversations with people who already have resources, people who already, they are not stuck between a rock and a hard place. These are people that really, really have a lot of good insight and information that can methodically communicate to you what they need. Not from a space of, well, how do I do this? Because a lot of people are stuck in infantilized brains. A lot of people are still in 5-year-old mindsets. They're still 12 in the brain. They're still hurt because that person didn't deliver the ebook like they said they were going to deliver. Or this person said that they was going to give me a worksheet and it never came. These are preschool problems. These are absolute preschool problems. People have not awakened to the fact that they're adults. So Kit or ConvertKit raising up their prices should be the least of their worries. You know what? All you have to do is that you see that ConvertKit send an email and said, "Oh, they raised their prices." Okay, so depending on how ConvertKit handles my business and the size of my email list, either I'm going to keep them or I need to find somewhere else to go that's a little bit more feasible for my business budget. And that's literally it. People make business decisions all the time. I never see Wells Fargo or Bank of America get online and gripe and complain about how Salesforce or whatever CRM that they're using is going up $200 a year or $500, $1,000, $1,200 or $5,000 a month. They don't get online and do that because they are a company that is sophisticated, understanding these types of ordeals that happen. They have the capital, and it hurts small businesses to because they don't have capital. And that's the thing. If you don't have capital, you don't have a business, pretty much. Or you're gonna have to get it out of the mud again. You're gonna have to get it out of the what is it called? You got to do the sweat equity thing again. But it's going to come to you by way of having an experience where you're going to have to come up out of the ground. So I would strongly recommend everybody who is on here, who is looking to have a thought leadership concept that is next level, that is in alignment to the new level. I need you to join my Substack, get in my Substack, and you need to join the exclusive subscription I have, which is only $19 now. It is $19 a month, and you can get in there. And I'm going to be posting frameworks. I'm going to be posting frameworks on how to lead with your content on authoritative level, and how to the prompts that you can use to actually position your content for that level of capability so people will see you as an expert. Well, you're not talking down to your audience per se, but you're allowing your audience and people into your spaces that have visions. I'm only talking to people that got a vision for their life. If you don't have a vision for your life, I really don't know what else to tell you. So the Substack, it is in my description. If you're following on Substack already, if you're already an exclusive member, definitely, your price stays the same. Your price is not going to go up. But it's $19 now. And for the year, of course, it's $197 for the year. We're going to be posting frameworks, and I'm going to be going live once a month to do authority writing labs. And that is going to really just kind of be a place where I'm going to just be helping you with messaging, because messaging is also a part of that as well. Because this is about global authority. This is about global authority. And so that is really going to take time for you to settle yourself and say, okay, what do I really want to do with my content at this point? And staying connected to me, obviously, too. And we're going to have like subscriber only chats where you can ask me questions and things like that. And these are people that are already tied into the paid subscription tier, okay, on Substack. Substack is definitely the place I think is really good for long form writers. I know that there are other spaces like Beehive and Flowdesk and things like that, but I think Substack has a lot of different um, features to it where the components that you're doing a lot of publishing. So, like I said, it's $19 a month. I think it's going to be an amazing experience for those of you who are pivoting or looking through a soft pivot to help you to come up on your content and give you some ideas on how to beef it up with your content and the emotional and also the personal development frameworks, because I do believe in character building. I really do. I promise you, as a business owner, you need character building, baby. You need to learn capacity. So I am rooting for you. I'm rooting for all of us. I want all of us to get these coins. I want us to grow our global authority. I want us to expand past the foolishness and the drama online, and just know that you can do this, right? Everybody's going through this together. Look, once again, everybody is going through the same thing as, as the globe, if you will. I'm just saying, it is very, very interesting to me. Very, very interesting. So, what I'm going to do is for the let me come here. Uh-oh. Look at me doing double. What I'm going to do, I'm going to send this to you all. Let me put this here. So just in case, subscribe to Substack. So I got the free tier, and I have, of course, the soul readers, because I'm excited. So I'm gonna pin that up here. So anybody that is interested, you too, Substack. Those of you who are not subscribed to the actual newsletter, come on in. But I hope y'all have a great night. I hope that this gave you some insight to your content and to help you with kind of understanding the landscape of content strategy and content creation. Keep going. Keep going. All right. Y'all have a great night. Get you some rest, and we will talk tomorrow. We're going to keep going with the series content that is attracting toxic minds. All right. Take care. Yes, I agree, Kendra. I agree.